Today we're going to talk about campgrounds. They're packed, the grill is going, the kids are running wild, and somewhere in the middle of that, my husband, gets quiet. And so we're going to talk about all of the things that are associated with the next upcoming big weekend, which is the kickoff for the camping season for 2026, or at least what most people associate with it. Today, I'm joined by Tasha, which is always a good time. We've also got a special guest who many of you have seen and known before. Ashley Gallaher from Campfires and Motors is joining us today. It's going to be a great episode today. Yep. If my computer doesn't freeze while we're working. All right.
We're all in different places.
Let's be honest.
Can I just call that out really fast? I just want to call that out really. I think everybody needs to know.
I think it's important to also say this is the first time I've ever done an episode while we're driving down the road. That's
Jennifer
a first for me.
is driving down the road. I am at Blossom Hall at Firefly Hills because I think I might be able to actually get good reception up here on top of the hill instead of down in the valley. And then Ashley is unexpectedly in Nashville.
Yes. So we are on East Nashville in Lebanon.
Nice.
So none of us are where we expected to be.
But the other part of it was not planned.
Right?
We'll stay on topic. Or it'll turn
and if we won't, we can edit it out and it makes a great reel. So it's fine. All right. So I want to start this episode kind of on the fun side of what this, is about, which is Memorial Day. And so what do most people think of when they think of Memorial Day? I'd love both of your takes on it. So whoever wants to go first, hop right in.
Okay, I'll go first. Most people associate Memorial Day more with sales than they do with the actual true meaning of what Memorial Day is. A lot of people also put that into effect as the kickoff to summer.
If you ask my kids, they would say it's the day the pool's open. Or at least Rosewood would say it's the day the pool's open everywhere.
And I think that's true about so many places across the country. We're in Texas. The pools have been open here. So I don't know that that's true here. But I do know that a lot of campgrounds, this is the official start of the summer camping season. And so we're going to talk about some of the fun stuff that goes alongside that. And then we're going to take a little bit of a twist a little bit later on in the episode, because I do think that, we need to keep in mind that it's about way more than just like that. But Tasha, what did Memorial Day look like for you, growing up before you went camping?
When I was growing up, Memorial Day for us, we did a lot of family get-together things. We would have a lot of cookouts. We would play volleyball. We would do fish fries. There was a lot of sit around and sing bluegrass music because that is my family. And we would play baseball in the yard next to my grandparents' house because that is also my family. Memorial Day was all about family. That's just what we did. It was get together with family.
I think that was true for us too, to a large degree. But I mean, I didn't grow up in a military household. And so there was never any discussion about we did the Memorial Day parade. I actually marched in a color guard. Every Memorial Day, there was a parade and we would go down and there was, festivities and all of that stuff. But I don't know that I paid attention other than to all the fun stuff that we did with the color guard. It just meant we were marching in a parade with a band and it was just a good time, right? And so it wasn't I don't know, I wasn't focused on the other side of it. But Tasha, you have a brother in the military, right?
Yeah. So my brother is military police for the Army. My uncle on my dad's side is Army. And then my dad's grandfather was in the military. My uncle was serving the whole time that I was growing up. But even my great grandfather, we didn't really ever talk about the fact that he served in a war when I was growing up. That wasn't anything that we talked about. And I knew that my uncle was overseas my whole childhood. I knew that Uncle Vernon's serving, but that wasn't anything that ever came up at any of these events. And now with my brother, it does come up more often. And I think that has to do with the fact that not that it didn't hit close to home for my dad when it was his brother and his grandfather, but I think that when it's your son, there's an added level of concern and worry there and awareness. So it's definitely become more in the forefront of our minds now that my brother serves.
I didn't grow up in a military family. My uncle was in the Marine Corps, but he lived in New York City. And so, like, he was long ways away. It wasn't something we ever talked about as a family. But Ashley, you've been on the road a couple of years. What's the campground energy like this weekend versus any other? What do you think that feels like from like your perspective on the road?
My perspective on that is that, like I said, it's the beginning of summer vacation for some people. They take that as the opportunity to take their first trips out, go do their long weekend. Some people actually end school the week of Memorial Day so they can turn it into a whole week thing after the weekend is over. And then, others obviously don't get done until a couple weeks after Memorial Day. But it's usually just like you have like your party crowd, obviously. Most of the time that's your weekenders. But you have people that they come, they have a good time. Sometimes you'll get like the sparklers come out. Sometimes you'll get like your rowdy crowds where it gets a little bit too chaotic. But it's so nice to like see campgrounds full with like kids out enjoying themselves. They wear like the red, white, and blue, and they have their flags out, and there's like, a lot of decorative stuff. And I think it kind of depends on what campground you're at. Like some do like a golf cart parade. Some will do, like a big thing at like a pavilion where it's like a potluck. So it kind of just depends on what campground you're at. I don't know. This year is going to be a little bit different for us. So
Yeah. So I also want to state at this point in the podcast that if you don't know that there's another side to Memorial Day, that's okay. That's actually why we're doing this episode. And I think that there's so many people out there that don't think about the other side of Memorial Day and what it means to our veterans and our military community. And so I think that drawing that attention for them and for our public to understand what goes on. I'm married to a Marine. Ashley's he was in the Army, right?
yeah.
And then, with Tasha having deep family roots to the military, I actually think that I'm the one that had the least amount of roots to the military till I married a Marine. And so I would say there's a lot that I didn't know coming into it that I didn't understand. Our first few years of marriage, I think that we kind of celebrated like everybody else. We went out and had a good time. We went to a picnic, bought some watermelon because it was finally time to actually buy the watermelon.
It's in season.
But it's about so much more than that. The first thing I want to say is, number one, Memorial Day is not Veterans Day. That's probably one of the most confusing aspects of Memorial Day for a lot of people out there. Ashley, do you want to talk about what the difference is between those two items? How does Steve handle Memorial Day versus Veterans Day?
He, like you said in the beginning, he kind of just, he goes quiet. He's not one to, I guess, gloat on the appreciation aspect of it. He likes to kind of just know that he did it because that's what he chose to do, and it's an honor for him to be part of that community, but he does not always accept the appreciation aspect. As for him, as far as the comparison between the two, is Veterans Day is about thanking a veteran compared to where Memorial Day is remembering those who have served, whether it's going to a cemetery and laying flowers or paying your respects, whether it's having a Memorial Day parade, whether it's a family get together and showing appreciation in your own way. That's where it is with him. Like, he kind of just doesn't do the whole, I guess, shebang of it. Like, it's more of an internal recognition for him.
Absolutely. So Frank will get quiet on Memorial Day because it is about honoring those who died in service. And that distinction matters enormously to him, especially since his combat deployments. So I think that is very important. Originally, Memorial Day was actually called Decoration Day. After the Civil War, people decorated the graves of fallen soldiers. And it's been a holiday since 1971. There is a time for the national moment of remembrance. Wherever you are in the country, typically at 3:00 local time, most veterans will take a moment and pause for a minute. And a lot of people have never even heard of that tradition. I think because we were military for 20 years and on bases, we saw some stuff like that on a regular basis where a lot of people don't. Typically, flags are going to be at half-mast until noon and then raised up. A lot of times, taps will be played at graveside services in terms of that. So it's just different in terms of like how we approach Memorial Day. The next section's kind of heavy, so just bear with us. I want to talk about how veterans actually experience this day. And it's different for every single veteran out there. I don't feel like it's one versus the other. So sometimes Memorial Day is one of those days where it's okay. Like he'll be fine. And then there'll be a moment or something will trigger that. Being in a military family, Tasha, where you had a lot of military influence in your family, when your family members would pull away at times like that, what did you guys do? Did you try and cheer them up, or did you did you let it be?
Honestly, I don't. You have to understand the Collins family. They're not one for somber moments in public places. Those are private moments. I don't have a lot of memories of that being like public moments. I know that like we have had conversations. There is like a memorial in Kansas City that has names listed on it. I remember going to that once, that being like a moment I could tell that it sat heavy for my dad. In my family, I think it's because of the generation and because of where my family is from. Like those are not moments like you respect the moment and you stand back and you let them have their moment. You don't interact with that. I don't know how to explain that.
But I think that's so well stated. I think that some people do make a joke of it and that's how they cope with it. And so the party is kind of the precursor for, needing to not be in it as much. And then I think you also have those private moments that are both of those things. And I think that's the thing I need to say is every veteran handles Memorial Day differently. And so for me, the first person that I knew that died in the war when we were active duty her husband lived across from me, and my boys played with her boys. And I have lost touch with her after all these years, but I'll never forget the day that her husband didn't come home. And watching the command come and tell her, because we were outside, the kids were playing together when it happened. And so that memory for me is very strong. But then it would be several years later when a good friend of mine lost her husband while she was pregnant with their third child in Iraq. And so, she went to church with us and she was a real close friend. And watching what Mary went through grieving Leon. And today she's got a thriving family. And, I won't say she's bounced back from it because I don't know that you do. But I know that every Veterans Day and every August 1st, which is the day Leon died, he's on my heart. And so Memorial Day is one of those days where you just take a few minutes and think about the people that you love that you lost, in our opinion. Now did Steve see any combat time when he was, in the military?
Yeah, he was special ops, so he was stationed at Fort Campbell, and so he would have those shorter deployments in the fall and then in the spring. And so I don't know any details, so I can't talk about it. But yeah, he did. He saw it. So he was actually deployed when we got the news that his father passed away, and his father was Air Force.
Wow.
So he was actually overseas when we found out that his dad died. So I mean, there's some history in the family with military, and then obviously our nephew just graduated from basic training, so we just left Oklahoma for that. So yeah, he did get to see some of it, and it's not, again, it's a topic that he doesn't talk about.
Right.
The
Yeah,
good or
and
the
I
bad.
mean, Frank
So,
doesn't really talk about it either. What would you say you've learned not to do on this day? Like, there's some things that we avoid doing just to make it better. Like, so we try not to now go to big parties unless there's an exit plan for us, because Frank might need that time away. And so I've learned in many years of marriage just to let him step away and then check on him. But I don't go right away because he needs those few moments first. Is there anything you've learned about Steve that, helps you as a family navigate Memorial Day?
That's a good question, because when we first met, we actually had friends that would do a Memorial Day get together every year. So they would do it at the same place on like Memorial Day weekend, and it would be a big group of people. And then once he joined the military and we moved away, a lot of that kind of like slowed down. Like we would do things, but it wouldn't be as extravagant. We don't do a lot with Memorial Day just because of crowds. The crowds, and then like just, firework noises and stuff like that. We kind of tend to stay away from that. I mean, we do that for like 4th of July because that's just a tradition that we have. But over the years, it's kind of just been, he just more than likely wants to just stay wherever we are. Like when we lived in Tennessee, it was always, he just wanted to stay at the house and do stuff at the house and on the farm. When we lived in Delaware, it was, he just wanted to just be at the house. He didn't want to go and do anything. So it was kind of more like a family barbecue in our driveway, and we would just kind of like sit around and drink beer and let the kids play and do their thing. I mean, we kind of got out of the whole big gathering thing once he joined the military. So, I mean, I'm okay with that sometimes.
Right?
I'm
So,
social.
I mean,
So.
me too. Here's the thing, I think this is one that a lot of people don't know they get wrong until they see a veteran react to it. So one thing I would urge you not to do is don't wish a veteran a happy Memorial Day.
Right.
And, I think that a lot of people do that, especially like if you're at the grocery store, they'll say on the way out, Happy Memorial Day. And Frank, his personality will tank throughout the day if he hears that all day long. And so, because it's not a happy moment for most veterans, they're reflective, they're dealing with their inner demons or wherever they were when they dealt with it. They've had friends that they've lost over the years. Whatever that looks like for them, that's a memory day for them. And so what can you say instead? What do you think?
Thank
I
you
know
for
that's
your
a tough one
service.
because I don't even know the answer to it. There you go. Well, I mean, there goes to the veteran side of things. They don't really want to be thanked for their service that day either. So
Yeah.
like Frank
Right.
doesn't anyways.
I think that just has become such a natural thing for people to say that a
Yeah.
lot of times they don't even take that into perspective of how the other person feels. Cause like, unless you know that the person is military or has that background with it,
Yeah.
you're not thinking about what that Happy Memorial Day is meaning to them. And I think over time,
Mhm.
that's just like any other thing. It's just become a natural thing, especially like in a customer service perspective. Like if you're just checking people out and that's just kind of something that you're saying, but you're not really thinking about it before you say it because it's an all day thing. I don't,
Right.
you know what I mean? I don't know if people really put 2 and 2 together unless they actually understand the
So
significance and the meaning behind what it is.
I would say if
Mhm.
you're friends with a veteran or you're married to one like I am, ask them, don't assume. Some veterans are going to want to talk. Some need the distraction of a normal cookout, and some need to be left alone. But take the time to ask them and let them tell you. I think that that's, one of the things that we do that we don't think about is we, assume that they're going to be okay. I no longer assume that. I let him be quiet when he needs that space on Memorial Day, but the silence is not a problem that anyone can really solve. So kids in Memorial Day, like I said, I didn't grow up thinking about Memorial Day that way, but how do you raise kids that kind of know what it means? Because we want to make them aware of, I know that, like, for example, Matt and Frank are really good friends, and Matt would say Happy Memorial Day and not think twice about it to Frank, and Frank would react, and Matt would be trying to figure out why Frank got quiet. And so, the longer you know your friends, the better you can read them, that sort of thing. But I think that one of the things that we have to do within our culture is to kind of share those experiences with people and let them understand it.
Mhm.
So, like for us, we do talk about it with our kids. Please don't wish Dad Happy Memorial Day. And we talk about, that it has more to do with other things. My older kids remember their friend's dad dying. Judah was 4 months old when Frank retired, so he doesn't remember any of that. So it's a totally different world from my oldest to my youngest when it comes to understanding the culture of it. So how do you guys address any of that?
Oh, I think it just came natural. The kids growing up in it, they knew that daddy was military. They knew that, daddy would leave and daddy would come back. And because some of his deployments were in the spring, it was kind of like hit or miss on whether or not he would be back from Memorial Day. So like it wasn't such a thing of them growing up always saying Happy Memorial Day. It was kind of more like daddy's home. We're gonna cook burgers. Like to this day, I don't think they say anything about Happy Memorial Day to their dad. Like it's just another day that they get to see their dad. That's just how we taught them. It didn't really, come up as a holiday. It was always just, daddy's home. We're gonna go on
Yeah.
with our daily lives. Like it never became anything other than that. But for me, it came natural too. Like I didn't do all that either with, wishing him a happy Memorial Day. It just wasn't something that we did. It was just another day. I mean, our kids that's just the way our kids were taught.
So what about your kids?
I think that with our kids, we've not like sat down and had a conversation and said, this is what each one of these holidays mean. Like, and we've probably done them a disservice in some ways with that. But one of the things that I think we have taught our kids in general is, I don't want to say to read the room, but when in Rome, do as the Romans do. I think that my kids have gotten pretty good about following or trying to follow the social cues of the people around them. And so one of the things that I don't know how to say this. Like if they walk into a barbecue at a campground and a nice lady at the barbecue brings them a, you know, grilled cheeseburger and says, "Here's a cheeseburger, happy Memorial Day." My children, out of respect, are going to say, "Thank you, happy Memorial Day to you too."
Right. Right.
But also, I don't think that my kids are walking around just saying happy Memorial Day to everybody. And I think that also probably is because they're a little antisocial. Like, let's just be real, especially David. But I think also, um, we haven't made a big deal out of those holidays on our side. Like that is something that I grew up with a lot of those family gatherings on Memorial Day, but my kids didn't. So that day doesn't carry that family outing significance or that celebratory significance that maybe it might for other people.
Totally. And so I think it's important to say at this point, if you're like Memorial Day is the beginning of my summer, that's okay for you. I don't wanna take that away from you. I think it's okay to crack out the s'mores, build a campfire, and do all those things. I think it's equally important to just say, be mindful of the veterans around you that are dealing with their own demons this holiday. And so because
Mhm.
they might be. And so, I think reading the room is a very great way to put that because I think that, talking that through as a family, for us, it means Frank and I have to have a conversation before we go do something that day, if we're planning to go do
Yeah.
something or if we're going to be around other friends and say, hey, these friends, and if they're campground friends, they might not be military. So, hey, this group we're going to be with today is, not, a military forward community. They might be fine with all the fun and the festivities around the Memorial Day weekend where, if we're with a group of, veteran friends, they might be dealing with their own side of things. And so I think it's okay to have both. I know that sounds crazy,
Mhm.
but I think kick off the season, but be mindful of the people around you and what they're dealing with. I think that's
And I
equally
think that's
important.
good too. You know, I will say
Um,
that
yeah,
one of the things that that being friends with you guys has done for us is it has brought some of those conversations forward in our family. Whenever we are like around you guys around the 4th of July, or we are, around you guys with these holidays, it does bring up those conversations in our family about what that day might mean for Frank, and being respectful of that. And so that has helped us have those conversations at home. So, and then I did want to mention, I thought of this earlier and we haven't talked about this yet, but in addition to the families that are remembering the loved ones that lost their lives in service, Memorial Day also remembers people who went missing during service. So that I think sometimes can be forgotten. But there's a ceremony that happens where they go to the unknown, the soldier that doesn't have a name. That you know what I'm talking about? Can you hear me? Are we here? What am I trying to say? No one can
you're
hear
a little
me.
bit broken
Everyone
up,
can
but it's
hear
okay.
me.
Smile
Yeah,
and
you've
nod.
been broken up for me too. Smile and
You're
nod is the way
back.
we do this. Um, the tomb of the forgotten soldier, the tomb of the, what is
Yeah.
that called?
The
Is it
one
the tomb
in
of the
Washington,
forgotten
D.C.
soldier? Yes. So there's
I believe so.
a ceremony that happens on Memorial Day where they go and lay flowers there in remembrance of all of the soldiers that were not able to come home, whose bodies were not found, who went missing while in service. So I think that's important to remember
Yes,
too, that there are families
Are
that maybe
are you
didn't
talking
get
about the Team
that
of the
end.
Unknown?
I think
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to like think. I'm like that doesn't sound.
I'm like,
We got
there
it.
is a
It's okay.
word. It goes between
Well,
tomb
and
and
I
it goes
think that
between soldier.
but I
And
think
I'm
that
going to have to take
that's,
all
you
of
know,
that
I think
out
that's a
in
lot of
editing.
people's no, actually, I don't think you do because I think that that's the point. I think that there's so many things that a lot of people just don't know. Like, for example, there's a lot of military branches around this holiday and restaurants, you'll notice, will do a table with a setting for one. And that's,
Yes.
for
Yeah.
all of those people that didn't come home. And so, very similar to that. So if you walk into a restaurant this weekend and it's a veteran owned business, there's a chance that you're going to see a table like that. Don't say
Right.
anything. Don't touch the table. Don't touch the
We
table.
went
Just
July.
we were at a campground once that they have a permanent table set up outside like that for the soldiers who never came home, and I thought that was absolutely beautiful. It's just there, they keep it up, there's a little garden around it, and it was beautiful.
Yep. Yeah, and it's a beautiful way to remember it. Like that's the
Right.
beautiful part of that, and I think that that's so important. I think that's
Yes.
ultimately what I'd love for everybody to take away from this is, we want to make it something where people can, remember the ones that have died and
Mhm.
protected this country with their life, essentially. Whether you agree with what they did or they did what they didn't do, the reality is we just want to honor their memory. And so I think no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, that we can all agree that Memorial Day and just think taking a moment to just say thank you to a veteran that gave his life for you protecting their, whatever you believe in. That's actually a conversation Frank and I had one of his last years in the military was, well, I do it for everybody. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, I don't do it for just people that believe like I believe. I do it so everybody can believe whatever they want to believe. And that was like a moment for me that was like, so I think that that's, important to understand too. The veterans that went over there, whether they signed up because they wanted to or they didn't, the ones that didn't come home still protected us in some way or another, whether we agree with the war or not.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
Ashley, I
Yeah.
want to bring it back to you just for a second. Your brand is actually rooted in this community, Campfires and Motors. Do you want to
Mhm.
talk a little bit about how your brand gives back to the Black Hawk community?
Yeah. So we have a American 250 Journey T-shirt that Steve designed, and so for every purchase made, or taking money and putting it aside to help with the 160th Special Operations Unit, which is the unit that Steve was part of, just as a give back for the 250th of America. But it goes all the way through July 4th.
That's awesome. I
So
love that. Yeah, I mean, so I think that we need to be thankful for the country that we live in and the gift of freedom. Our campfires, we could look at it as like an offering, and the community that we serve and we are a part of is something worth fighting for. And so, if you see a veteran out this week that maybe needs some help, the first thing I'd tell you is if you're a veteran out there and you're struggling, there are suicide hotlines and stuff like that. If you're struggling, tell someone, reach out to someone that's close to you, let somebody help you. If you're a wife, and a lot of times I think as wives, we don't talk about what our husbands go through. But if you're a wife out there and you are struggling with your husband and what he's dealing with, reach out. The community's here for you. I can't tell you that I have all the answers, but I'm here to support you in some way or another, even if that's just an ear to listen to. I know as a wife of a husband that came back from 3 deployments, he has some skeletons in the closet, so to speak. But at the same time, he manages them okay most of the time. But if he needs that moment, sometimes you just need to step away and let your husband have that moment, or your wife, if she's the veteran that's had the combat, deployment. Anyway, so what are you guys looking forward to this holiday weekend? I know. We just went dark and dank and all the things, but so Frank is actually leaving on a road trip this weekend, and he's headed west with my 21-year-old, and they're going to take off. So the kids and I will be solo for this weekend. So I don't know what we're doing because I don't even know who's here. We're hoping there's going to be some campground activities. And then I think that we may go do here in Texas, there's a 3:00 moment of silence over by the Veterans Building near the library. So the kids and I will probably go over there. What about you guys? Do you guys have plans for the Memorial Day weekend?
So Steve and I are actually, we will be working Memorial Day weekend, but we will have off Memorial Day. So
Gotcha.
we have taken a work camp position in New Hampshire. So we
fun.
we will be working Saturday and Sunday, but we will have.
Well, and I mean, I think that's the other side of it is a lot of people don't realize, Memorial Day, just because you get the weekend off, if you are working for a campground, guess what? Chances are you are working that weekend.
I mean, even if you have off, more than likely you're still working because you're probably planning like a barbecue or having people over, and so you're still technically working, even though you're having fun while doing it.
And Tasha, yours is bittersweet, right? You leave Kentucky for Memorial Day.
We will have left on the 17th. So by the time Memorial Day hits, we will be in Virginia up around Lynchburg. So that'll be kind of neat because we've been up there before. And there are a lot of national monuments and parks and some Civil War cemeteries and things like that we've gone through and looked at previously. I just tried to create one new word, but the word that I want is previously. But there were some that we didn't get to. So I think it would be nice to maybe go and check some of those out and see if they've got anything going for Memorial Day, since, be a good time to remember the history of our country and how we got to where we are now. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Well, one more question for both of you. Ready for this one? What's your favorite Memorial Day food?
I don't know. I am an ice cream girl through and through. So I don't know.
The question for you is, will it be warm enough in New Hampshire to eat ice cream?
I don't know. It's only like in the 50s right now, and it's supposed to be in the 70s when we get there. So I don't know. I might be having hot dogs and hot chocolate. I don't know.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's hotter than blue blazes here in Texas. I think that we could take a bath in ice cream. So, I mean, I get that.
I like all the goodies. So ice cream is definitely the go-to one, though. What about you, Tasha?
I think I'm a watermelon girl. I either watermelon, or if somebody has pulled out already the American flag cake with the Jello and the Cool Whip, and like they've made the flag out of the strawberries and blueberries, I can dig into that cake. But if I'm behaving myself,
you are going old school
good,
on that one.
Oh yeah, I am. Because I know what's up. But if no one has brought the cake to the barbecue, then I will dig into some watermelon. But it's got to be like the really good watermelon that just like gets down your face and you're a mess, and then you got to go wash up with the garden hose afterwards. Yeah, it's the only way to do it. If
you're anywhere near Frank, if you ever see him eating a watermelon, have you ever watched my husband eat a watermelon?
I don't.
He eats the whole thing. Including
like
the rind
too? Oh, Frank. I just don't know about that. Although, I mean, like, I think my dad
my favorite thing
on his. No. Although it is good.
See, my favorite thing
to,
used to be before we had gluten-free kids. Uh-oh.
I could see you in a watermelon contest, Tasha.
Pickling watermelon
rind. A seed spitting contest?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Really?
No. No. Oh, that just... I'm not. No. Hard pass. Nope. That's where I draw the line.
All right. Well, let's wrap this one up. It's a great episode. If you're out there, enjoy Memorial Day. If you know a veteran, give him a minute. If you don't know about Memorial Day, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you. If you haven't checked your roof this year, this is a great weekend to get up there and do a roof inspection. So if you need some help with your roof, or you don't and you just want a maintenance-free system, this episode, like many others, is sponsored by RV Roofing Solutions. Don't forget to hit the follow button, like and subscribe. To Campfires and Motors, thanks, Ashley, for tuning in with us. To Tasha, she's just part of the Learn to RV team. And so like and subscribe to Learn to RV the podcast. And we'll see you around the campfire, and enjoy Memorial Day.